I'm telling you this right now, you're going to take this as a lesson at 11 years old that if you do something stupid in the future, you're going to enjoy those cuffs.
An 11-year-old girl admits to texting 911 with a fake kidnapping claim in Volusia County, Florida. Sheriff Mike Chitwood is here to discuss the incident with us. Welcome back to Sidebar here on Law and Crime. I'm Angenette Levy. This incident happened on Wednesday morning in Volusia County. The sheriff says the girl texted 911 and claimed her friend had been kidnapped at gunpoint. As you can imagine, the sheriff's office called out the cavalry and launched a massive search, but it all turned out to be fake. They found the girl at her house with her family and took her into custody. Take a look.
Stay calm. You can talk to your parents. We can open the window and let you talk to them. Nothing's going to happen to you. Do you understand that? Okay.
I'm telling you this right now, you're going to take this as a lesson at 11 years old that if you do something stupid in the future, you're going to enjoy those cuffs.
I'm not going to do this again.
You know, this is going to be an opportunity for you to turn this into a learning experience. This is not something you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life, okay?
Joining me to discuss this disturbing story is Sheriff Michael Chitwood of Volusia County, Florida. His department was involved in responding to this. Sheriff Chitwood, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Tell us what your first thought was when you got this 911 text call saying this is an 11-year-old girl who's been kidnapped by an armed person. I can imagine if you're, a call taker dispatcher, you get a little amped up, but you're doing your job. And then the cops respond in force, in mass, to try to figure out what's going on.
Exactly. It's you have to throw all the resources into it. We put our child abduction response team on notice that this was, this call was there. Be prepared if it's live. And then you start to go out there. She's giving us little tidbits as she's texting us. She gives us a mile marker on I-95. She tells us it's a white van and the person's been tied up. The suspect is a white male with brown hair and blue eyes and is armed with a firearm. And she's following that car. And for the next half hour, she's texting in little tidbits. Eventually, she calls 911 and says, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to call you." And with that, we're able to triangulate where the call's coming from. And we're able to send deputies to her house where we discover the person doing this is 11 years old.
When you all figured out that this was a fake call, a prank, a swatting call, a spoof, whatever you want to call it, your reaction, your thoughts, your feelings?
I think if you watch that video and you listen to my lieutenant is talking, you could see the frustration in his voice, but also as a father, he's trying to use this as a teaching moment for her, and hopefully she'll tell all her little friends about. But when you look at the resources that were out there, the helicopter was up for probably 40 minutes. That's not cheap to fly that thing. Right. You had 3 other police agencies responding along with my office. So for 30 minutes, the county's really on lockdown here with resources because that is the priority. Try to find this vehicle. We're getting these tips. Somebody claims they're following the car. And then you discover and you're like, here we go again. And these kids just don't get it. We get lots of school threats. And we've told parents repeatedly, I don't care if your kid's in middle school or high school, if they put out one of these threats and we have to go out and spend all this time and resources and money to investigate it, to discover it's a hoax, we are arresting and charging your child. You need to stay on top of what they're doing with this social media. It's dangerous.
I think that it's a good thing that your lieutenant was trying to have a teaching moment here because, kids are, they're kids and they don't think things through and they do things that are silly. But the thing that bothers me about this as well, and I have a young son, so I'm always keeping an eye on what he's doing on his iPad, is the YouTube aspect of this. This girl apparently thought, I thought it would be funny or whatever. There is so much stuff out there that our kids are exposed to that is negative and influences them. And they have no impulse control whatsoever anyway, really. And it influences them. And it's not a good thing. So let's talk about the YouTube aspect of this.
Just think about over the past several years or since COVID hit, the number of these challenges where someone was hurt or killed One thing comes to mind was the knockout challenge. Just walk down the street,
Right.
hit somebody as hard as you can. You could kill somebody with one punch. Gargling with bleach if you have COVID. I mean, some of the things they put out there, and these kids, like you said, impulsively they jump on it and think, "Hey, this is a wonderful thing." So what we're trying to do is, because last week we had an incident with an app called Wink, which is like a
I saw
Tinder
that on
for
your Twitter. Hmm.
yeah, which is like a Tinder for juveniles. Well, here you have a 12-year-old in Pennsylvania thinks she's talking to a 16-year-old in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and they plan to hook up when she comes down to visit her grandmother here in Deltona, Florida. And what turns out to be that 16-year-old was a 29-year-old, and then of course she was sexually assaulted by this 29-year-old. And you say to yourself, my God, this was from Pennsylvania to Deltona, Florida, 1,300 miles away. This is how dangerous the internet is. So what we're doing is we are partnering with the Department of Children and Families. And as school gets back, we're going to start to do symposiums at night. And we want parents to come invest an hour and a half of your time, learn about the dangers of the internet, learn about how to protect your child, and learn what the consequences are going to be if they do these spoofing or SWAT calls, especially with school starting again. You can rest assured we will get dozens upon dozens of active shooter calls coming in that are going to be bogus.
And that's a disturbing thing too, because you can't not take them seriously. The minute you don't take one seriously, it's probably legit. And it is a waste of resources. It's a drain of resources, and it's just wrong. And you said that you've seen an increase in these things since Parkland when we were talking before we came on.
Yeah, when Parkland hit, I cannot tell you the number. It was hundreds and hundreds that came in that these kids thought this was funny to call in an active shooter. There's somebody in the parking lot dressed in all black. They got a big gun in the backpack and they're walking into the cafeteria. Well, everybody's running in at 1,000 miles an hour. And that's where the danger is, because somebody can get killed in that response or injured, and it finds out that it didn't happen. So I just said to my staff and my deputies, listen, investigate it as hard as you can. If you come up with the person responsible, they're getting locked up, they're getting charged with disruption of a school campus. Let them figure it out. We got to send a message that they just can't do this. They actually should be spending time as part of their probation with the families down in Parkland who lost a child and see how funny they think it is what should be happening. And then COVID hits, and it just reignited it again once these kids came back to school, that they thought this is funny. It's pretty cool that the school's in lockdown. It's pretty cool that all these, the armored vehicles are there and the helicopters up and the media's there. This is really a lot of fun. It's not. It's deadly. And from a readiness point of view, how many times can you go to a call at 100 miles an hour before you say to yourself, I'm going to back off? And the one time you back off is when it's live. And that's what the danger is of that, is how it affects your readiness and your preparedness.
Yeah, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf type of thing, and you can't afford to play that game, and neither can the public. So what is going to happen to this 11-year-old girl? We know that you guys took her into custody and put her in juvenile detention. So what happens next?
Yeah, what'll happen is, I always say the juvenile justice system is like a sausage maker. What goes in the beginning isn't what comes out on the other end. Once the psychologist gets involved, once the attorneys get involved, once the judge gets involved, they'll do a pretty good job of figuring what kind of sanctions will come out of this at the end of the day. At the end of the day, my theory is always it's tough love. You hit it hard up front, and then you let the system do what it needs to do. She's not going to jail for this. We are, though, working up the cost of what this response was. And once I get that, we'll present that to the state attorney and ask that part of any sentencing is the parents reimburse us for all the amount of time and effort that went into it. I mean, the air unit was probably close to $1,000 just in fuel. That was just the air unit. And then you break down all the different agencies.
I know it's going to be a big price tag. I know it's going to be hefty. Did the parents have any reaction? I mean, you guys go to this house, the deputies go to her house. Were her parents there? And what was their response, if you know?
Parents were home. Dad was mowing the lawn. They were very helpful with the deputies. But I think as the process went on, I think when they discovered that the Department of Juvenile Justice was going to have her spend the night in a secure facility, I think then things kind of changed in their opinion. And why is she have to stay there? And then she was released the next morning to the family. With one of the things I thought was funny was they released, not funny, but it was like, why would you not do this? She was released back to the custody of her family where she has to be under their supervision, but they didn't ban her from the internet. They didn't say you're not allowed to go back on any electronics. You just can't use it till the case gets disposed. I'm thinking that's the reason why we're here.
Oh my gosh. Well, I hope that parents seeing this, I hope her parents realize you got to watch your kids on the internet. I mean, even 11, too young to be on there doing whatever and with a phone doing whatever, unsupervised, really it is. And I hope parents also attend your symposiums. Sheriff Michael Chitwood, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate your time. We know how busy you are.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
That's it for this edition of Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast. You can download and listen to Sidebar on Apple, Spotify, Google, and wherever else you get your podcast. And of course, you can always watch it on Law and Crime's YouTube channel. I'm Angenette Levy. We will see you next time.